Hello and good evening, and tonight I have something slightly different than usual. I acquired very cheaply a used Nintendo 64, well I think you can only get them used nowadays, and it came without any games, so I looked online and found in some classifieds someone who gave away this Zelda Ocarina of Time for a pretty cheap price together with Mario 64. And I heard it's a pretty good game. Never played any of the Zeldas, so it would be nice to try it out. So I plugged it in, powered on the machine. And while the Mario 64 worked fine, this thing was just dead in the water. Black screen, nothing happened. So I took out the cartridge and checked the pins, and then I saw this. Let me get the light a bit closer. You can maybe see it here on the left side. There's quite a bit of corrosion on the pins. So I thought, okay, there was some battery leakage somewhere. Maybe it got a battery inside for saving games or something like that. It was not unheard of back in the day. Didn't use flash back then because I guess it was too expensive. And so I wanted to open the cartridge, and there's the next hurdle. Nintendo, similarly to Sega, uses these security screws. So I got myself a very cheap set of 115 bits, and lucky enough, this bit set has the correct security driver right here. So we can actually open up this thing, and we'll use some deoxit, or in Germany we call it tuner spray, because you would, back in the days, you would use it for your hi-fi tuner, and use the deoxit spray on the volume pods and all the connectors. So that's what most people used it for. If there's a battery in there, we can also check it with the multimeter. Not sure if I can replace it. So this is what the thing looks inside. There's a big fat RF shield and some Phillips screws. So we need to swap the bit and get something different, like this here, maybe. So this looks much more sturdy than the regular Sega cartridge, which usually just has a simple PCB inside. I did not see anything with enough RF shield with the Sega consoles. Wonder if this is strictly necessary, but we leave it in. There's also a bit of corrosion here, probably from the same source. And there is a battery, a Sierra 2032, which is soldered in, I would say, or spot welded. I can't remove it like that. We can probably test it, but it's not the source of the leakage. So something else leaked onto this thing, or maybe it got wet or something. So I hope that it's easy to clean off. But first, let's probe the battery. I first have to check if these are easy to change. Maybe I can't save any games, but that's probably not even that important right now. I'd rather first get the game running. The battery is still at 3.1 volts, which is decent. So I think we don't need to swap that. If it were below 3, I would say, yeah, we might need to swap it. But I think this is good enough. Let's zoom in a bit. So here you can see the oxidation. It looks worse on camera, I think, than it actually is. So I'm gonna take the deoxit spray and put something on here. And we'll take a Q-tip and try to remove that. Oh, that is pretty sticky actually. And it smells great. Probably not the healthiest of substances. And I think I probably need to get a anti-static brush or something, because or a toothbrush maybe, because I think this Q-tip is not strong enough to get rid of that. And it looks like the gold coating is already a bit attacked. It has tiny little holes, so the corrosion is already pretty nasty on this one. So I'll pause momentarily to fetch some better brush. So I found a toothbrush which is just fine, and in the meantime this whole thing dried off, so I put a little bit more deoxy on that and we're gonna scrub away. So the scrubbing did away with most of the corrosion. There's still a bit of left here and it's looking green, so I would use a tiny bit of white vinegar to neutralize that. The gold has been attacked or the gold plating at various places. You can see some small holes here and there. We should make good contact, but I want to neutralize all the alkaline material that's on there. And we do that with a few drops of vinegar, and I will scrub that off and then wash it off with isopropyl alcohol to remove the vinegar and avoid the acid eating through the plating further. So just minor addition of that here. So I'll put some on the dish here and take some up with the brush. I'm gonna scrape over the pins, and hopefully that will be enough to neutralize whatever is left of that alkaline material. I don't want to bathe it in there because the gold pins already look a bit fragile, and I want to avoid damaging them even more. But having done this, it should be good enough to put into the N64 without corroding its pins on the other side of the connector, I hope. And also to make the whole game work again, because with this amount of corrosion it was no wonder that it did not boot up at all. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna wash off this dish and then rinse with alcohol. So as usual, there's not enough, there can never be enough alcohol, so we pour generous amount of alcohol over the board. It doesn't hurt in any way. It will remove all the nasty stuff that we put on there, and we can even brush a bit more of the residue here. And I think the cartridge should be fine after a quick drying. And we can even have a short tour of the board, because the N64 was a bit unusual, because it came out in 1996 or 97, something like that. And while the PlayStation 1 had already been released for 1 or 2 years, and there were other consoles like the 3DO and the Sega Saturn out there. Most of them, I think the Saturn supported both CD-ROMs and cartridges, but all the other consoles switched to CDs by the point, because CDs were much cheaper to manufacture and you could put much more data on it than on a cartridge ROM. So the N64, while being the first really true 64-bit console powered by some very impressive 3D hardware designed by Silicon Graphics, it was actually a bit limited in regards to the memory of the games and some other resources on the hardware. So on this side of the board we have 4 chips. This is the 32 megabyte mask ROM for the game. This, I think, I couldn't find datasheet, but I think this is some kind of CMOS static RAM which is powered by the battery. And this here, I couldn't find much of it, but one obsolete chip supplier said it was an octal bus transceiver, which I doubt because it only has 8 pins, which, well, wouldn't be enough for 8 bits and or power and everything. So it might be some kind of bus transceiver, but maybe for a serial bus or something. I'm not sure. And this is the infamous Nintendo CIC chip, which is used for copy protection. So yeah, this has to be present on the PCB or else the game won't run. So you can't just copy the whole game to a 32 megabyte ROM of your choice and yeah, be done with it. You need this copy protection chip as well. And you only get that from Nintendo, obviously. There were other ways around the copy protection, but yeah, it was more involved than that. So let's dry this off, put it back together and then plug it into the console and hopefully we will have a working game. Okay, so here we are. This is the N64 that I got. We've got Zelda, we've got a controller, we've got a new power supply that was also missing. And I'm gonna insert this now and then we'll turn on the power. But first we have to turn on the monitor, of course. And with a little bit of luck, the game will work again. So as you can see, the cartridge actually works. I had to plug it in 1 or 2 times before it started working, so I think there's still some corrosion left. But the game runs and it starts with a nice little intro animation. I have to admit, I have never played any of the Zelda games, and this is supposedly one of the best, definitely one of the most famous. So I'm gonna play a bit this game and I'm not sure if I'm gonna figure out how to do it, but I would say it looks cute and yeah, it's in German obviously because English games are pretty rare here and Nintendo was always pretty good at localizing their products, which is of course necessary if you want to target kids who only speak German here, and yeah, an English game would have been lost more or less. So I think this repair is pretty decent and yeah, let's play this nice game. Okay, so with a little bit of luck we got the game running and I have no clue what to do here, but I will certainly explore the game. It looks very cute, if that matters. So the first 2 or 3 tries the cartridge didn't work. There was still a little bit of corrosion on one of the pins. I scraped it off with my fingernail and also I think it helped to insert and reinsert the cartridge a few more times. So I think the board itself is still working fine, but I don't trust it too much. So we might have similar problems in the future if the pins corrode a little bit more. But for now it's working and I think I'll have a lot of fun playing this game. I never played Zelda before, so this will be my first proper Zelda game. And yeah, for today I think that's it. I thank you very much for watching. Please share, like and subscribe as usual. You can also support me on Patreon if you want. 2 links are in the video description. If you can't or don't want to, that's fine too. I certainly hope to see you back in the next video. Until then, bye.